I'm Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and you're listening to Squatch Talks podcast. Thank you for squatching.
You're listening to Squatch Talks podcast. Real stories and real encounters told by real researchers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Tonight we have joining us Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Professor of Anatomy and Anthropology at Idaho State University. I'm thrilled, and we're going to bring him on in a moment. Just wanted to, of course, thank everybody for clicking on the video, sharing us with your friends and family, right?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Subscribing, and hey, all the comments and likes and things are always appreciated. So wanted to get that out of the way, get the business taken care of early on so that we can jump right in. Welcome back to Squatch Talks podcast, and we are here tonight with a special guest, Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, Professor of Anatomy and Anthropology at Idaho State University. So help me welcome Dr. Jeff Meldrum. I did have a viewer send us an email. One of our regular viewers sent me an email link about a Sasquatch nest eDNA study that's up in the Olympic Peninsula.
Right.
And you were part of that, I think, right?
Right.
Okay.
The Olympic project was brought in after a timber cruiser had identified some unusual nests, which he could not, to his own satisfaction, conclude as belonging or been made by a bear. And so it unfolded really interesting. The logging company actually put a moratorium on logging in that area for 5 years to give them time to study and to observe and monitor the area. And eventually, after they had monitored for quite some time and they did recently have some activity, not in that specific spot, but adjacent. They actually, Shane Corson and I don't know if he was by himself or who he was with, but stumbled on to presumably a Bigfoot that was in the process of constructing a nest,
really,
and abandoned this pile of evergreen blueberry boughs that it had collected, and they did cast a footprint too, in a footprint and a handprint, I believe, both.
Wow.
But in any case, I was brought in and given the opportunity to examine and photograph, and we actually brought in some great big, contractors, garbage bags, and we cut a pie-shaped wedge out of one of the nests, collected all that material, removed it, so you could see the vertical strata in the construction of the nest, and sort of unpack the construction method. It's really quite interesting. We took core samples with sterile vials from the center of the nest that had been maintained without any contact by the investigators, and that was eventually submitted to Todd Standing. He did a sequence of a mitochondrial gene. He did just a small portion of it, but it's the cytochrome oxidase 2 gene, and concluded that it was human. And I, had some conversations with him. I still am concerned that if we don't sequence enough, and if we don't include some nuclear genes as well as the mitochondrial genes, that we may be missing the boat. That is, right. We may be, just distracted by the common strands, the common sequence that we share in common with one another, but missing those distinctive markers that differentiate us from them.
Which aren't going to be very many, and they're going to be hard to find, right?
Yeah. And they're not necessarily evenly distributed. They're going to be scattered about in the genome, and probably more likely, in the nuclear genome, where the phenotypic traits are found, as opposed to those more conservative mitochondrial genes for the most part.
Okay. And you did have some sample DNA taken back at Snell Grove also. I believe that there was like 35 different pairs or something, and then 388 base pairs
Right.
There
Yeah,
was one that was like chimpanzee that showed up, primate.
exactly. Yeah. Again, it's a very small piece
Right?
that was Scott again. Scott Nelson did
Kurt
that
Nelson.
work, and after Todd Distil
Yeah.
gave up because it was so degraded, and
Is-
that's part of the problem. Scott went to great lengths to. I'm sorry, not Scott. Scott Nelson is someone else. Kurt
Nelson, right?
Kurt Nelson, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kurt went to great lengths to try to purify it. It appeared that
And amplify it, I think, right?
Pardon?
And amplify the specimen?
Well, you're right. But the first challenge was purifying it so that
Right.
the primers would work.
Yeah.
Apparently, he concluded that there was a galvanizing agent on the screws that was somehow
Right.
interfering with
That's
the
right.
process.
Oh,
So-
that's
So he cleaned it, ran it out in gels. What you do basically is you run it out in an electrophoresis gel, and then you cut out that little bit and you re-dissolve it and then run it out again. And what that does is eventually it separates it from any of the contaminants, unless they're molecularly bound to the DNA. And the problem is, see, the more you manipulate, the more chance you have of maybe damaging something, then which gets amplified and takes on greater significance than it should. So one substitution, even though it was intriguing because it was a substitution shared with chimps, is not out of only 300 base pairs, or 385, whatever the count was, a very small fraction. I mean, these days you do, like I said, genomic. Even when I was a graduate student, you never would think about publishing something that didn't have thousands and thousands of base pairs in a sequence in order to draw reasonable conclusions. So 300 is like, it's the knot hole in the knot hole of the fence baseball.
Yeah.
It's barely
Well,
giving you.
we as citizen scientists, right? I think that's a phrase you may have coined, right? That's way above our pay grade, of course.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the screw trap that the
Right.
cabin owners had left by the door, right? Which potentially had some DNA blood, residue on there. And I'll never forget you and Kurt investigating and following up on that. And you find what looks like a hair, and you get out the tweezers and you remove it. And I think Kurt mentioned it being a hair, and you said, well, at this point in the investigation, we would consider this a fiber.
I said that?
You said that.
Oh, I said that? No, I don't remember saying. I thought
I've used that line on expeditions many times.
Sounds like something Kurt would say. I mean, no, it was a hair to me. It was a hair.
You were the one who said, at this point in the investigation, we would consider this a fiber.
Remember that?
And I didn't even review that episode. That's just from my memory.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and confirm that attribution.
But yes, I was one of those guys yelling at the
It's a
TV
good line.
It's an excellent line. Flattery, imitation is the best form of flattery, I always say.
Sure.
And I've used that online on our, expeditions when we're at this point in the investigation. But I have to say that, I was one of those guys yelling at the TV going, get out there. What are you doing huddling in the cabin?
Oh, we were.
Get your therm.
We were out there. And then see what was funny, which you don't see on TV. We eventually got to the point after we'd gone out and scouted around, nothing had happened, and we were back out in the at the fire pit, waiting for something, and nothing was happening. And I'm not a night person, and I was starting to teeter and totter, and was afraid I was going to fall asleep and fall into the fire. So I said, it's by now about 2:30, and I said, hey, I'm shot. I got to go in. And I'd already been in once and splashed water on my face. That's when Dwayne got the rock thrown at him. And so we all agreed to go in. They were just as shot as I was, but we all agreed to go in, but we were going to keep our boots on basically and just turn off the lights, sleep on or lay on our beds and keep our boots on. And sure enough, I mean, the lights hadn't been off for 5 minutes. My lids are just closed and heavy, and bam, across the roof. Only this time it wasn't a rock. It was a chunk of cordwood from the wood pile out back.
Wow.
Bounced across the roof and fell off onto the stoop, onto the back stoop. And man, Dwayne screams. The lights go on, And I go, no, turn the lights off. Turn the lights off.
Yeah.
I said, we want to be able to see out through the windows.
Right.
Turn the lights on, and all you can see is yourself. And so I was a little less eager to go running out into the night, though, with cordwood raining down.
Yeah.
And so I was looking out with my night vision again, hoping to catch a glimpse of something darting between the trees, and nothing. Eventually, we did venture out.
Yeah.
And nothing happened, though. It was, I mean, whatever it was, all they have to do is just stand still, and unless you've got a thermal,
Right.
you walk right past them. You know,
I think that you even miss them with a thermal, because they just they really cool down. Yeah. Because we've reviewed thermal footage, and we have pretty good thermals, and there's always something that you just can't tell what it is next to that tree. You know, it's a lot of times I think that they even fool the thermals.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's amazing how I just learned this last week. I was telling Nathan, I was actually waiting for my friend to show up. And I'm going to be meeting him again tomorrow night. We're going to be going back to this area again, by the 1-lane bridge, to do some further research. He had an intimidation encounter last Wednesday. Okay. But I'm waiting for him to show up, and I had my window down in my truck, and I had my therm, and I'm scanning, just to make sure I'm not getting, charged upon by something.
Right.
And I look in my side view mirror, and I could see behind me, in thermal image, in the reflection of the mirror, I could see heat signatures behind me. So I'm like, wait a minute. I thought you couldn't, you can't see through glass, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I went like this. I stuck my hand out the window, and you can literally see my hand as a white hot thermal signature
Reflection.
Unbelievable. I never knew that before.
Yeah. No, I didn't either.
I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah. Suspect you.
I thought it was pretty neat.
You could
one of the things mentioned on this eDNA page that the friend Tom sent us on the Olympic Peninsula was the sheriff who had found these track casts in 1982 or 83, I forget.
A deputy sheriff, Dennis.
The deputy sheriff, yeah. This is one of those cast impressions.
Yeah.
Which Heather actually got for me for Christmas this year.
Oh, excellent.
And she did tell me, you are not allowed to use this to make molds.
Yeah.
But Cliff didn't sign this one for me. I don't know. We got it from the North American Bigfoot Center.
That's right.
But that gets me back to a question I was thinking, like the Patterson Gimlin cast, for example.
Right.
I mean, that's been copied so many times. Is there a copyright on something like that?
Well, not necessarily. At this point, I think you say, it's been distributed so far and wide. The one in particular, let me think. I always have to get my rights and lefts. It would be the left one, and copied probably the most. I mean, my feeling is, if you have been given permission, for example, Grover received a lot of casts from witnesses, original casts, which he then molded using with their permission, using this really nice silastic rubber,
right,
and a very durable, very high fidelity mold. And he would always make a second copy, a replica, return the original with a copy to the owner. But it was with the understanding that he could replicate those for various purposes, either commercial distribution or for exchange with other researchers or demonstrations and so forth. And I eventually inherited, or was
Grover Krantz's collection, right?
Yeah, Krantz's collection. So those are the ones that I most frequently display at the conferences and so forth.
Sure.
I don't think it's proper etiquette because this has happened, and I've had to kind of rein in. I mean, you tread lightly, because I don't want to be guilty myself of having violating confidence. But when someone buys a cast from me that I have that arrangement with, where I have the original and I have the original molds, and then knocks off a copy and then starts selling them online, that's not kosher in my book, you know.
Okay. Yeah, no, I
And
wanted to know. And
yeah,
but
it's really
if it
not.
was
Yeah,
I totally understand. And that's why I was
I don't-
asking, because
yeah.
like I said to you, one of the hopes I was having is to make a mold so we could do these demonstrations on
Well, yeah,
expedition. You know what I mean?
for that purpose, I think it's absolutely appropriate. That's
So
fine.
you wouldn't
That's
have a
fine.
problem with me doing that if it was presented to
No,
somebody
no,
as
no.
a prize or a gift, right?
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I would, like I said, I would be a little bit annoyed if you showed up, which has happened, not you, but if someone shows up at a conference, has the table next to me, and has knocked off a bunch of casts that
And
they
selling them, right, in
bought from me,
competition with
and they're
you.
selling them beside me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
little
that's
bit
rude.
annoying.
That's
a
rude.
This
but
this is the left foot of Patty,
it's
though.
not. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that. But you know, it's not how I make a living. It was really funny because I was up in Spokane just this past weekend, and there was a fellow, and he was quite skeptical and a little bit snarky. But so he looks around. I mean, because I do hawk some casts, and I have my books and field guides and some
That's
other fun
okay.
stuff.
Sure.
Keychains and whatnot. People get a kick out of, and they like to have Bigfoot part of their personality.
Memorabilia. Sure.
Yeah, and it's I think it's fine. It's fun. But he looks around and he goes, "So you make a reasonable living at this?" I said, "Not hardly." I said, "This is academic outreach. I come and give these talks, and
Yeah.
there have been times when I have gone. I've said, okay, because I get every once in a while I get barbs from people that I'm just commercializing. I'm just there are some groups I won't even name them, won't dignify them by naming them, but they make this big deal. Oh yeah, Meldrum, he gets $2,000 every time he goes to give a presentation, and he doesn't even believe this is real. He just wants to make money talking, make on the speaking circuit, and they have no idea. They have no idea that
None.
it's not a money making thing. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought for a second. One time, in reaction to that kind of criticism, I thought, okay, this time I'm just going to go and give the talk, and I'm not even going to sell my books. I'm just going to, people can get them on Amazon. I'm just going to go and give my talk. And
Right.
my gosh, I about got rode out on a rail, tarred to death. It's like, you didn't bring any casts? I wanted to get such and such. I've been saving this, money's burning a hole in my pocket.
So the guy next to you cleaned up.
Yeah, right. There you go. I do it as a service, and I try to also make it very educational. I've got little annotated descriptions of the casts and pictures of the people involved, or the footprint in the ground, and a little
You
description.
make it educational as well.
Give out with that, yeah. Give out with that cast, and so people can appreciate and understand. And each one illustrates, because I'm often asked, "Well, what's your favorite?" I said, "Well, it depends on what you're trying to demonstrate. This one has historical significance, but it also has this anatomy. This one has this particular distinctively clear trait. This one, the Bosberg cripple foot shows this pathology remarkably well, that gives us insights into the foot proportions and so forth." So each one has a story to tell.
Unique character too. Sure. But going back to that question then, because I'm asking because the individual who helped me make these molds he's actually a friend I met through my business here, through the CBD company he represents, from Wisconsin. His brother-in-law has a place in Michigan called Mystery Town. And he thought, that would be a wonderful addition to our line of, cryptid type products, is maybe having some track casts available, right? Yeah. So he said, hey, if I help you make these casts, would you allow me to make a mold of a couple, you know what I mean? So that we can take it back there and to produce some for sale. Sure. So that's why I'm inquiring also, because I don't want to step on any toes or insult you or anybody else.
Those casts that you made in the Pine Barrens, that's
that's my property, right?
Yes. So those are fair game. I think, again, in this case, he should exhaust the other sources, people. the problem with that, and I've had people actually approach me with that kind of a, by the time you pay the shipping with these plaster casts, you eat up your profits. For me to ship a cast, ship a cast to you in New Jersey would cost about, it probably could be, well, that Hereford track would probably be close to $28
just in shipping.
For parcel post. So you know, you don't make a whole lot by the time, if he's going to pay you a commission and then still hope to make a profit, it's just not worth it. And then especially since you point out the ethical questions, which I'm not going to press.
That's cool.
But
yeah, you end up making $3.
Yeah.
You end up making $3 for all that work.
That's right. Yeah.
When we were talking about it, though, on our last episode, Nathan's like, "What'd you say? Is that like copyrighted?" I said, "I don't know. Let's ask Jeff."
Yeah. It's not.
Something didn't feel right.
I'm sure that there's some interpretation, but you know, it's like it's a bit murky, a bit cloudy.
I can understand that.
It's just not right. It's just not right.
So you're saying that I shouldn't do any more of this one?
Well,
no, don't do any more.
You know, like I said, for your immediate purposes, especially when you're hosting expeditions, I won't mind you using that for your demonstration and giving that to giving that
an attendee.
Yeah, but if you started knocking out 50 copies of it and trying to,
are you kidding? This is rubber. This will make 1,000 copies.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, because I have to say, you have no idea how I felt when I pressed it into the box we made, right? Onto the clay. When I pressed gently down on it and it went crack.
Yeah.
My heart sank.
Yeah.
I tell you, it sank, and I was, oh, what did you just do? I can't believe you just did that.
Pretty stiff.
But I'll tell you what, it came out really good.
That looks good. I mean? Yeah.
Does it look good for the first time?
That itself is a great demonstration tool, because, you know, again, this weekend, I actually had one of the, with some of the young people who came and stopped by, and they were trying to figure out how, to interpret a footprint cast. Because they're thinking, well, how come it's sticking up if it's a footprint? But if you have that, it's what it looks like in the ground.
Right.
And people can often are more able to interpret it, because you don't want them necessarily to think that the cast is the foot itself, because it's not. The cast is just a positive of the footprint, which is something totally different than the foot. Not totally.
It's a moment in time. Because
actually, it's a little GIF in time.
Perfect. Yes.
It's not like a snapshot of a static foot. It's the record of the whole step from start to finish.
I never looked at it like that.
It's a great way to look at it. And if this was found at night, I would use my headlamp on an angle sideways to really display the features of the imprint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's strong side lighting.
Right. These are things, Nathan and I really do take this seriously. We have a great deal of fun, and we enjoy taking everybody out and doing these things for the BFRO, of course. But this is something that, we do try to be as scientific as possible as citizen scientists, But next, actually this June, I'm going to have an opportunity to meet Esteban.
Oh, good.
Sarmiento.
Yeah.
At a speaking event I'm going to be doing up in northern New Jersey. So that'll be fun. Yeah. And Ken Gerhardt is actually coming up too.
Ken Gerhardt's everywhere. Every time. I mean, man, you talk about making a living on a speaking circuit. He's really successful.
He's doing the job.
Every announcement I see these days has Ken Gerhardt on it. So that's great. He's a very entertaining speaker, very cool. Informed, and
I've never met him, so this will be fun. Yeah. I'll have the pleasure, I think, of introducing him, because I'll be speaking right before him. So that'll be fun. And I was hoping to have some tracks for sale, but I guess I won't.
The only way I've ever seen money in this field is leaving my hand. I've never got any coming back.
Right. Really. Oh yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you could. I didn't think you could make money doing this.
We do this as a
Well,
way
you
of
can,
supplementing our gear, basically.
Yeah.
It pays for the gas to get out to
Oh,
the
right.
forest, you know what I mean, or the
Yeah.
gear
Yeah.
that we use, some of that.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
that's
no,
really why
people-
we do it. It's a passion that I've turned into something that I can actually, get a little paid for, like with the expeditions. Nothing
Exactly.
wong with that,
Yeah. No.
and
Time's
meet
worth it.
great people along the way, and form friendships. So
Absolutely.
I know I told you 45 minutes to an hour, and now we've exceeded that. So I do apologize, and I don't want to
Oh,
get you.
I can't even
But
see what time it is.
I had one last thing that I just mentioned Dr. Esteban Sarmiento, the
Yes.
primatologist who you were on the sequel with on
Right.
Snell Grove. He must have had pretty interesting things to say also.
We go way back. We go way
Okay.
back. I mean, I knew Esteban. I knew of him when I was a graduate student and he was a graduate student. And then I was on a field expedition to Patagonia, to southern Argentina. And he was down there doing some traveling and hooked up with our group and spent 4 or 5 days at least with us in the field. And so I got to know him really well.
Quite well.
then. Yeah. So we go way back. We've had a lot of fun, and we both tend to be attracted to controversial questions and seem to be lightning rods for some polarity. So we are kind of kindred spirits in that respect.
Then that'll take me to my next question that I'll lead off with. I understand Paul Freeman, of course, is somewhat controversial in the Bigfoot community, right? But I happen to believe that's still some of the best video, that's next to the Patterson film. Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
And Michael Freeman, his son, has written a book, which has recently come out that you contributed to,
I did.
of course.
Yeah.
I haven't received it yet, so I can't speak from experience, but is there anything you'd like to share about that to our viewers?
It's good. I mean, one of the things that's really exciting about it is that the publishers have incorporated these QR code little patch, code bars or whatever you call it,
QR codes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can actually hear Paul Freeman speak in his own voice and relate some of the stories, and all kinds of supplementary materials that are scattered. The QR codes are scattered all throughout the text. So that's really, really fun.
Unique.
I mean, they were a little bit frustrated, I think, in production costs have gotten a little bit unwieldy as it is. It's turned out to be a rather expensive hardback book. But they, Michael was kind of bemoaning the fact that they were hoping to have nice glossy color plates, which is what I was kind of expecting. That type of a format to really present almost in an archival fashion this tremendous body of data. And it's a little more like a family photo album in a way. It's it's very informative and very worthwhile, put it that way, and has a lot of interesting information in it. The contributions, to have the different perspectives. They ended up, and I wasn't expecting this, they ended up sticking my contribution as the introductory chapter, which worked out well because I tried to emphasize and place in a broader context the real significance of this body of data, which has been poo-pooed by some of the Bigfoot movers and shakers out there. But just for example, this body of data with its extensive footprint cast collection has been examined by more PhDs than any other body of data out there.
Right.
It was the first place where dermatoglyphics were described from actual specimens. In Kranz's publication, there just are really interesting aspects of this collection that go underappreciated by a lot of people, and dismissed by some who should know much better.
Absolutely, and that also kind of coincides with back in 1996. You were with your brother Mike, right? And you went out to the Blue Mountains, I think it was, with Paul Freeman, if I'm not mistaken, and that's where you were shown this line of track impressions.
That's right. So the region has an especial
significant meaning, right?
For me. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you were talking about it on Finding Bigfoot. I think with Bobo and Cliff and Matt about the 45-degree off step with the
Oh, yeah.
right, because
Yeah.
it kept turning every second step to look back at something as
Right.
it was leaving the area, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Same.
noticed this and I didn't realize what it was. And in fact, John Green in one of his books, I can't think it's maybe it was Sasquatch Files. It was either Year of the Sasquatch or Sasquatch Files, but he shows a photograph where there was a long line of tracks on a beach in British Columbia, and it likewise had this foot angled out, and he was going to great lengths to try to figure out what was going on. What, could there have been an injury or something about the ankle or the knee that was askew? And no, it was just, it wasn't until I was at the beach and actually discovered this phenomenon myself through looking over my shoulder to look at the footprints I was leaving in the sand, trying to learn from it. And I suddenly noticed that every time I looked over my shoulder, my right foot, the foot on that side anyway, would angle at 45 degrees. So that's what was going on. This Sasquatch walking down the beach was looking over its shoulder every now and again. That's all.
Wow.
Amazing. And that kind of goes back to the Patterson Gimlin footage where she turns, right? And she's basically turning, because instead of just turning the head, she's basically turning her whole torso to look back at them, right? And Nathan, isn't it funny? We've been speaking to Dr. Meldrum for over an hour, and we didn't even mention the Patterson Gimlin film.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
Aside from the track impression that I made a duplicate of.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, right? That in itself, Dr. Meldrum, is something to write home about, I guess, for us. But I just want to let our viewers know again that Dr. Jeff Meldrum is the author of Sasquatch Legend Meets Science. That's the partner, what does they call that? The companion. Thank you. Nathan usually finishes my sentences, but the companion to the, I think it was Discovery Channel show that Doug Hychak produced.
Well, that's what inspired it. It started off with the intent of being a companion volume, but grew far beyond the confines of the film itself. And it maintains, as you see, the cover art. It maintains the organization, the chapter organization, with the addition of a few extra chapters, but each chapter is expanded greatly beyond those limited examples provided in the documentary. So sometimes people think, oh, well, I don't need the book, I'd rather watch the video. They're two different things.
No.
And it's also available on Audible, but that book has over 150 figures in it, which the Audible version doesn't have. So at some point you really should have the book. And even if you don't like to read, there's a lot of information contained in those 150 figures.
Audible is the one you can listen to, is that?
Yes.
Who did the narration for that?
And that was a good question. I couldn't say offhand. I had wanted to. I had wanted to explore doing an audio book myself, and just all of a sudden, out of the blue, it must have been in the fine print of the contract, because I actually wrote that book as a subcontractor for someone else.
Just curious, I was going to say, if you need anybody in the future, please keep me in mind. I would love to have an opportunity to do an audiobook.
There you go.
And there's the Sasquatch Field Guide, which I also received from Dr. Meldrum. It now has, just as a pointer to point out, it now has been revised with new cover art. So if you see it on Amazon or at Paradise Cave where it's published, there's a different cover illustration. So it's not bad, is it? Well, no, that's volume 2. That's the Relic Hominoid Guide. But the first one now has new, fresh cover art. It's a really cool image of kind of a tree peaker. Has this beautiful rhododendron bush in the front there, and
nice.
And Dr. Meldrum, again, I apologize for keeping you a little longer, but we didn't even touch on any of the relic hominid stuff or the morphology things that you're the expert on. So maybe you'd be gracious enough to come back on again at some point to discuss those things with us.
Again, you betcha.
Our viewers would love it, I'm sure. But I do
have one question.
Okay.
One question I'm dying to ask.
Okay.
What would you say to somebody like me who's losing enthusiasm in the subject because I'm not getting to that next thing. You know, we're collecting all the same stuff, hitting
Oh,
the
right.
same roadblocks. What kind of advice or what do
Well,
you
there's a
have to
couple
say on
things.
that?
One that you sort of alluded to, and that second field guide is expand your horizon to have a better appreciation for the broader context of relic hominoids. What is the distinction between Sasquatch and the Russian Almas, or Sasquatch and the Orang Pendek, Homo floresiensis? You can gain a better appreciation of that broader context. And I think there are for some of the cutting edge stuff, I would refer you to the Relic Hominoid Inquiry, my online journal, which is easy to find. Just Google the Relic Hominoid Inquiry, or it's ISU.
I'll link it.
Yeah, okay.
I
ISU.
will absolutely link it. I have that information too. I was going to talk about. Thank you.
So
it's fascinating. You've got all your studies and everything on there too.
Yeah, well, not just mine, but other people are submitting their research papers, their commentaries, their technical notes. And that on the note of technical notes, I was going to say, if you are inclined technically, we're always looking for contributions. Now we actually have a section on citizen science, but one thing that I'm really keen on is having some people submit, what's the latest and neatest readily accessible app on a phone, for example, like this LiDAR, and give a tutorial. We can even do one with a QR code so that they can have a little video presentation related to it. So get involved with the cultivation of the skills necessary to be an effective citizen scientist.
Yeah.
Very
well,
good.
hey,
Very
I'm
good.
I'm just lucky if I remember to have my Bigfoot journal with me so I can take notes about, weather conditions, time of day, all that pertinent information. Okay. And remember to wear gloves if I'm collecting DNA stuff. Yeah. We're actually doing an expedition in New Jersey in June and one in Pennsylvania in September. And the one in September, actually, I do have a DNA scientist coming on the expedition with us.
Excellent.
I'm thrilled. And last year, like Nathan mentioned, we had an anthropologist on board. So she's actually kind of still communicating with us and helping us out in that regard. But to have a DNA scientist who has access to a lab in Maryland is just blowing my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's exciting. I would, if you're willing to share, put that person in touch with me. I'd love to have a chat, because that's been a real challenge, is to identify. As opposed to going to a commercial fiber analysis outfit, academic molecular biologists are hard to.
Well, since you're so kind to allow me to make duplicates of this for our attendees, I will be happy to share with you. But hey, I don't want to overstay our welcome, so I just want to say to our viewers, please, help me thank Dr. Meldrum for joining us this evening, and remember our friends at YetiBars.net, because we just came out with the Squatch Talks podcast, Yeti Bar, made with, what is it, Nathan? Caramel and tobacco, right?
I think so. Yeah. It
Yeah,
smells like aqua velva.
Aqua velva, basically. Yeah. It's got a hint of chocolate, and the very finely ground red cedar shavings in there is like an exfoliant. So we're very excited that this bar is now available. I have my order already coming in. So YetiBars.net, and thank our friends at Black Rifle Coffee Company to keep us supercharged to get out there and catch these elusive creatures on therm. Sorry, just taking care of the last order of business, Dr. Meldrum.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
And again, we want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. And
yeah, it's been a blast.
I can't tell you what a thrill it's been to see you again and to talk to you. And I hopefully we'll encounter you again on the trails, and if not at a convention or conference near you. Okay.
Sure thing.
Hey, thanks for squatching. Perfect.
Excellent.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Please thank your wife for us also. For keeping
I sure will.
And I appreciate all you've done as far as helping me with the cast and everything. And it's just great that we were able to connect with you. So very much appreciated.
You bet.
Stay safe.
All right.
Take care and stay in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good night, Doctor. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a great honor.
Sir. Yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
And I'm Eric Spinner, of course. This is my friend Nathan Moyer.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
So,
yeah, thanks for doing this. This is really great of you.
Oh, you bet. My pleasure. Glad to do it.
you're looking good.
Well, thanks. Yeah,
The
that's nice.
beard's
Good.
a little fuller.
Letting the beard go a little bit.
So is Nathan. He just got done telling me he's going to let it go probably till Christmas, so he can put the red suit
There you
on.
go. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Get ready for Santa gigs.
Because he's
Yeah,
got
they
a
pay
junior.
pretty good, actually.
Yeah, true. It's a little side hustle,
Yeah.
But he's
There
got
you
a grandson, Waylon, who's going to be old enough to appreciate it this coming Christmas time. So
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that'll be fun.
So your camera looks good. Your audio sounds good.
Okay. Good.
All right. Yeah, I was, I have to get to the point where I'm not afraid to say to the guest, hey, you know what, can you do this with your lighting, or you know what, can you move the angle? Because otherwise it's not going to look professional,
Sure. Of course. Yeah.
So
I'm fine. I'm open to constructive criticism. Definitely.
cool. Well, there's none necessary in this case, but welcome to our show. It's been going on for about a year. Nathan and I started about a year ago in January. And we've just been telling all our stories. Our premise is real researchers sharing real stories and encounters.
I see.
So,
yeah, good.
After about a year, though, we kind of ran out of some of our material.
Sure. So we had to branch out, start bringing other researchers in,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And other guests. We actually had on Matt Moneymaker to end season 2, so that was exciting. Some other doctors and researchers, of course, joined us. But I have to tell you, this is a great privilege and an honor. I'm thrilled to have you join us. So
glad to be here. Now, remind me where you all are located.
I'm in southern New Jersey.
Southern New Jersey. Okay.
In the Pine Barrens.
That's right. You sent me those pictures of the cats from the Pine Barrens.
You did get them. Okay.
I get 2 or 3 of these a week, and they start kind of blend together, and it's all I can keep up with making sure I'm in the right place, the right time, let alone keep them all straight.
It's kind of like us with expeditions and witness reports. They get jumbled together,
Yeah, it can't happen.
Nathan's in Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania.
Okay, yeah.
And so we have like the whole Northeast corridor. We have a couple of other friends and associates in Connecticut, New York. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But great. Yeah, we're researchers with the BFRO, of course.
Right.
And so we've been doing this a long time, as well as being organizers. So we conduct expeditions and take attendees out into the field and, do all that fun stuff. So
definitely, yeah.
But this is something we did because we wanted to have fun talking about our endeavors.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's an evergreen topic for sure.
I listened to a podcast you did with a channel by a similar name. It's called Squatch Talk with Pat Thomas.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a year ago, roughly. And he had you on, and then a panel of like 6 of them kind of did the whole show. You were on for like 3 hours. I felt so bad for you. But it was a good conversation.
Yeah, I should remember that. That's a memorable accomplishment then.
Indeed.
We won't have you on for 3 hours, trust me.
No, I told my wife as I came upstairs, they promised it'd be just under an hour. So
yeah, she was texting you, I think, saying, hey, come on, dinner's ready. But I enjoyed the conversation. And I remember you all the way back to the Monster Quest episode in Nell Grove, so that's really what kicked it off for me. But if you don't mind, real quick, in case we go a little longer than an hour, not much, but in case we do, and I wanted to divide this up, I could do a brief introduction just to welcome you to the show. So
certainly.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, that was great. I got a lot out of it.
You got a lot of questions answered too. It was a good flow.
Yeah,
he was very, very, very good as a guest. So woo!
Yeah, that was fun.
That was
fun.
fun.
I want to have him on again though, because I got other questions I want to ask.
How about it? Right? We can do a whole nother show. That's why I asked him, because we didn't even touch on the relic hominid stuff. I wanted to ask him about the heidelbergensis and the hudubagesis and the robustus probensis.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to ask him.
At least we found out
his opinion on the track cast molds, right?
Yeah, I could have told you that.
Hey, look at this
I
one though,
wasn't-
Nate.
I wasn't all warm and fuzzy about you doing it. Yeah, it looks good. It does. It
What
looks
do you
great.
think of the toe, the big toe?
I think you should have left it the other way.
You think I should have
Without
left it
it.
original?
Yep.
Let's just break this off. Well, I can, but I just wanted to do one completely.
I think it looks more authentic, obviously, that way. When
This
you
way.
it just yeah,
okay.
I really do.
Well,
I
can
think
totally
doing that,
block it.
I think doing that just if you're willing to do it with a track cast, you're willing to do it with anything. Fake it.
No, I admitted to it.
I know
I
you did.
admitted to it.
I know you did. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you are willing. What I'm saying is people are going to say, if he's willing to put a toe on a cast just to make it look right, what else is he willing to do?
Well, I'll give
I'm
this
just
one.
saying.
I'll
I'm
give
just
this
saying.
one to the mystery town,
There you go.
right?
There you go. Yeah.
And I'll make mine over the way it's
that-
supposed to be.
That's a good idea.
How's
I like
that?
that idea. Yeah.
Cool. But
Yeah, no,
I'm just
do
showing
you know what I'm
it
saying?
came out
though?
good though, didn't it?
Oh yeah. No,
This
the,
is
the
the
detail
recast.
is better than I thought it would be.
Isn't it awesome? Look at the leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the detail's way better than I thought it would be.
So this will be the one I give to Mystery Town because it'll be different than what we have.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That
Well, also-
way I agree.
Now, the only issue with that is if I make a mold with this, I'll have to make another one of mine. That's a duplicate. And obviously, I can't give him a copy of the Meldrum cast.
No.
What do you think
No.
about the Patty cast, though? Since, like he said, it's been recopied over and over again.
Who'd you buy
What are
that
your
from?
thoughts?
Wow.
Cliff.
That's all up to you then. It
You're gonna
really
put it on
is. Yes, I am.
It was payment to him for helping me make the molds. You know what I mean? Which was for us.
Yeah.
That was the deal I set up with him. You know what I mean?
I don't put it on me.
I'm not. I'm asking your opinion. I may stop recording. Hey, I had a great time. I had a great time.
That was good.
You know?
That was good.
Woo!
I definitely enjoyed it. He was way more personable than I thought he was going to be.
I was going to say, Jeff, you know, you're like the fifth horseman. Right?
Yeah,
I think
I
of him
would
in-
think so.
I think
I would
of
think
him in that
he's.
term.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Absolutely. And he's got all of Grover Krantz's casts. You know, we didn't touch on
Yes.
like over 300 casts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Including
wanted to show him that one too, and I forgot.
I tried to interrupt. I was going to say, Nathan, which cast do you have there behind you? I wanted to, you know, bring that up.
Yeah,
That
but I
one
kept
was
talking
from,
over you.
that was from
Ohio.
Kentucky, Ohio, right? That's what
Ohio,
Mhm.
yeah. It's Deer Creek.
Deer Creek.
Yeah.
Hmm.
See, and it's way wider than anything you guys are showing tonight.
I
Way
know.
wider.
Way wider, but I think that they're bigger in Kentucky and in West Virginia, in that area. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
But that was so cool, man.
Yeah, it was neat.
But we really got this is completely different again than a lot of the things I've seen him on, because we
Good.
were talking about the stuff that we find interesting. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And personalities got brought up and stuff more
Yeah.
than the anatomy of the foot and the
No,
structure.
I
of
think
the-
it was more
Personal.
stories of researchers and telling real stories is what it was.
Yeah.
He told stories that they don't show on TV, and that was
Did you-
exactly what I was after.
Did you like what I brought up? Hey, isn't it true though that somebody urinated off the porch? Right?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That doesn't get talked about a lot.
no, no.
I did my-
Most of what he talked about on here doesn't get talked about a lot.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I did my research today. I had a bunch of notes written down on
and
things.
you
that
didn't
we
use
could
on
talk-
one of them.
Oh no, I used most of them. I'm
Good.
serious. We used most of them. I had other ones like track casting in the snow. What the heck is aerosol wax product? Because he mentions that. But But no, I mentioned all the names of people that I had here. Todd, Kurt, Doug, Esteban, Michael Freeman, everybody I had mentioned that I had
that you
seen
wanted
him
to talk about.
associated with, like you said, the personalities, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bring up I briefly mentioned the mysterious encounters as a prequel to Finding Bigfoot. But yeah, we got a lot covered, man. And the most important thing, what does that say?
No.
Station identification.
There you go.
Woo! How cool is that? Dr.
Yeah.
Meldrum saying, this is Jeff Meldrum, and you're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast.
Thank you for squatching.
Thanks for squatching. He did say thank you for squatching.
He did.
Thanks
he
for
did.
squatching.
Yeah,
Hey,
well.
Jeff, can I get you to do it once more time, please?
Yeah, I wasn't
emotion.
gonna let you ask
I'm
him
not
one
gonna
more
correct.
time.
I said 45 minutes to an hour, and we had an hour and a half with him. So
yeah. No, it was good.
I could definitely cut it into 2 shows if I wanted to. So we'll see how it edits. Okay.
Yeah,
and throw in
there's
a
quite
few
a bit of
bloopers.
shit you can take out of there.
Oh, tons.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Everything I said. I like to record things prior and then edit any bloopers out and add, any text if necessary. That's how we usually end it. So before I let you go, I got one small favor. I want to ask you to do a station identification for us.
Okay.
So I'm Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and you're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Thanks for squatching.
Squatch Talks with an S, right?
With an S. That's what separates us from Pat's
yes.
Squatch Talk.
Okay.
All right, Nathan, look good.
All right, you ready?
Oh wait, you know what? Let me put you on speaker. I'm sorry, just you. Okay.
Well, here, let me
there you
let
go.
me turn around too. I noticed this when the sun went down, face got darker and darker.
Oh, you're the best. You're the best, Jeff. I have to tell you. You've been really you think of all this stuff. So
since we're gonna do just the one little snippet here.
I forgot to get Matt to do a station identification for us. So I got to get a hold of him now and get him to do one. But it's a great idea,
Yeah. All right, there we go. How's that? That's not
perfect.
Much.
You look good.
Yep.
A little pinkish, but that's
that's all right.
Put that on.
Yeah.
Just the yellowish light is overcompensated. Okay. Well, this is Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and you're watching Squatch Talks. What else was it? Tell me again. Coach me again.
This is Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and you're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Thanks for squatching.
Thanks for squatching. All right.
Yeah.
You are.
That was cool.
High five. Wait,
that was awesome.
Like that was my initial thought. Like he mentioned,
why is this guy going to talk to me? He's on TV.
Yeah. Exactly. Like Ken Gerhardt's everywhere, he said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing the circuit, blowing. I'm excited, man. I know you didn't sound too excited, but I've been like all at Twitter all day. I feel like I'm jumping out of my skin. Really needs no introduction, obviously. He's been on just about every program, every podcast. I mean, he's written books and other guides to squatching, and of course he's the author of Sasquatch,
Legend Meets Science.
Thank you. Which I have sitting right here. I could have looked. Well, hey, as soon as Jeff joins us on the call, so I guess it would help if I sent him a link, right? I did this with Matt too. Let's not keep him waiting.
Of course not.
Well, you're going to be helping. You'll be cooking and stuff, Making s'mores, brother.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, man. I'm going to bed.
I love you. That was awesome. Man. Good job.
All right. Talk to you.
See ya.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Squatch Talks Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and give us a like. And stay tuned for more exciting stories on Squatch Talks.